Welcome back to the Working Man Podcast. This is another flying solo episode. I will be back next week with at least one of my cohorts, but I'm going to be taking advantage of this time solo as we are traveling from one job to the next to talk about time management. I have, as some of you might know or remember, I have 3 children, and not all of them are in school, so it is a busy household. I run a business, and I am actively involved, regularly going to the gym 5-6 days a week. So things can be pretty busy. And I think that one of the big things that I often see people talking about, and somewhat related to last week's episode on hustle culture, is the notion and idea of how do I, that Venn diagram of you can make money, you can, do something you enjoy, have some downtime, keep up on your chores, or, spend time with family or get enough sleep, but you can't do all of it. And I would say, unfortunately, that is largely true, especially in the modern day and age. But I'm going to talk about my own personal schedule and see if that kind of breaks down for other people what you could be doing to kind of structure your time, whether you're working a 9 to 5 or you're out here trying to start your own business, if you're a content creator, if you're doing whatever. Everybody has their own hustle these days. So let's kind of dive into it, and just keep in mind that my schedule is going to be very different from your schedule. So if any of the stuff that I'm saying sounds like it's only halfway or not at all applicable to you, or something that I make sound achievable that you feel like, man, I just can't do this, like that sounds like it'd be too much for me or whatever, ultimately, like, that's okay. That's nothing to feel bad about. Know your own limits, know your own personal mental health, and this is just an example for how I balance my own schedule while staying busy with all the different aspects of life. And hopefully it might help some of you that are working on your own little corner of the market out here. So for starters, as a business owner, I have a number of jobs that I do throughout the day. I am not paid by the hour. I am paid by the job. And so whether I do a job in 10 hours or I do a job in 4 hours, the only thing that matters is if I complete the job as I have been paid to do it. And that, often leads to, sometimes I'm there for a while. Sometimes I'm there for not a whole lot of time at all. But for the most part, I would say on average, I work about 8 hours a day, not counting for drive time. My schedule is unique in that because of the nature of what I do for work, a lot of times I will have a job that starts at, say, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I will work from 7 to 11, and then I will have a large gap of time from, say, 11 till 9 until I'm expected to go back and work again. And then I will be working from, say, 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. So this is a schedule that has just worked so well for me having a young family, because with 3 children in the house, it means that I'm able to be there for a lot of stuff. I'm able to go to soccer practice, go to ballet practice. I'm able to cook dinner, all that, be there for my wife, who is an incredibly hard worker, and I'm able to just be present. And that is a luxury that I do not take for granted. And that is part of what makes my schedule so unique. But also keep in mind that this unique schedule also sometimes leads to me not sleeping as much as I should. I would say on average, I get about 6 hours of sleep a night, which has seemed to work for me to where I don't feel groggy, or I'm not, dragging ass as I'm going around. But at the same time, sometimes it's less than that. Sometimes it's more than that. Usually not, but I would say on average, it's about 5.5 to 6 hours of sleep a night. So as I'm working, I think that one of the biggest things that kind of has helped me compartmentalize my work schedule, my workout routine. I'm very active with fitness. Like I said, I go to the gym about 6 days a week for at least an hour, hour and a half. One of the big things that has allowed me to kind of compartmentalize everything is not just time management, but also managing my attention, if that makes sense. So I would say that if you are feeling overwhelmed by your schedule, but your schedule maybe doesn't even seem that crowded and cluttered. I know that for a lot of people, you might be the type of person that just is very overwhelmed if you don't have a crazy amount of downtime, or just the necessary amount of downtime for your cup to be full, so to speak. But I think for a lot of other people, that feeling of being overwhelmed comes from, and I have not looked up any studies. I have not done any research into this. This is just my own personal opinion. But I think that for a lot of people, that sense of being overwhelmed comes from not having clear kind of, bookmark chaptered sections in your day that are your brain is able to kind of subconsciously keep track of. And what do I mean by that? I would say for me, it's something as simple as when I'm driving in the car, I like to listen to music. When I am at a job site, I like to listen to podcasts. It helps me pass the time, and I'm able to focus on stuff other than the job. So if I got into a routine for a long time where I was listening to, hours and hours and hours of podcasts, not just at work, but on my drive, at home while I'm doing chores, and so on. And that is fine and well, and might be, perfectly healthy for a lot of people. But the problem that I found was that if I'm listening to podcasts at work, and listening to podcasts on the drive, and listening to podcasts while I'm folding laundry at home, then in one way or another, my brain at least seemed to begin to associate, all this time as just one giant mass of work, of labor, of doing the same thing. And I think for a lot of people, say you're someone that, spends a lot of time, say, going on to Reddit or something like that while you're at work, and then you come home from work and you're browsing Reddit while you're on, eating dinner. And then after you're done eating dinner, you hop onto Reddit and are scrolling through as your relax time. I think that for a lot of people, that relax time might not feel as satisfying because this is something that you so closely associate with just something you do all day long. It might be something that brings you joy and pleasure, but at the same time, if you're able to actually compartmentalize the different segments of your day and kind of close the chapter on, say, your work schedule and transition into your home time, then I think that you might find it's more easy to feel like you have more time throughout the day instead of just one giant blur that's gone by. Our brains, as I understand them, are very hardwired to kind of recognize and pick up on patterns. And I think that for a lot of us, we can get in the monotony of driving in traffic to work, driving in traffic back from work, just passing time at a job. And by the time you get to the end of the day, you're like, I don't even know what I did today. I think that one of the best ways for me that I've managed to break up that pattern has been to just set these clear boundaries. So when I am at home, one of the things that I enjoy personally doing to relax and unwind is, after I've gotten the kids to bed, I like to watch a show with my wife. But during that time, I spend a lot of time on my phone just because I'm scheduling jobs, I'm sending out invoices, I'm communicating with people that do work for me. Some of my many talented and wonderful employees. I'm spending all this time on my phone. I need to make sure that I have my phone just on the charger in the other room so that I'm able to just focus solely on, watching a show. Because for me, if I'm sitting there and I am watching a little bit of show and then I look down and I'm, looking at some funny video on Reddit or whatever, and then looking back up at the show, I find that at the end of the day, I don't feel as fulfilled with my relaxed time, because there wasn't so much division between what I do normally through the day and what I'm doing to unwind. The same thing goes for at the gym. I have for a long time kind of gotten stuck in a cycle of being at the gym, and I'll be there for an hour. I do a really solid workout, but it doesn't feel like I really got out of that workout what I was hoping for. And one of the, as I was thinking through kind of what I do while I'm at the gym, one of the biggest things I noticed was that I was carrying over some of the things that I do while I'm at work, like looking at, a news article every now and then, or listening to podcasts just to pass time and keep my mind active. As I'm at the gym, I was also doing those things, and so it just felt like I was kind of still in work mode. This was just another part of my day. And for a long time, what actually ended up helping kind of break me out of that cycle was, whenever I would go to the gym, I wouldn't bring my headphones in. And I know I see a lot of memes on the internet of people being like, look at this guy out here raw dogging his workout, no headphones, no nothing, like some sort of psychopath. But at the same time, I have I guess I would say one of the job perks is that I have the benefit of being able to, listen to podcasts with headphones in my ear the whole day, that I'm, my whole work day, if I want to, outside of a handful of interactions. So when I'm at the gym and I'm trying to get this workout done, I should have been more focused on my workout, and it felt kind of weird at first to not be, listening to music or listening to something while I was working out. But at the same time, it was kind of freeing after a week or two to just really be able to crack down, concentrate, if someone, not that I was going around bothering other people, but just to say hi to guys that I see regularly at the gym. Hey man, you're making great progress on your workouts. I see you in here all the time. Like, I'm not here trying to have a conversation with you, but your hard work is noticed, and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of be more active. And I know for a lot of you, you're going to the gym and it's not any place that you're interested in communicating with other people. Just go in, head down, get your workout done, and that's fine. If you're that type of person, odds are I'm not coming over and talking to you, because I can, I've been a gym rat for 15 years now, I can tell. But for me, having the ability to just have these clear, defined chapters from section to section to section of day really just kind of made it feel like I had so much more time in my day. Now, granted, there are only so many hours in a day, and there are a lot of things that I wish I could do more of that I do not do. Like, I'm a big gamer. I was born in 94. I have been working all my life for the most part, and half of it is just to support being able to, when I was 12 years old working a job, it was just so that I could buy the PlayStation. It was just so I could buy an Xbox 360 and all that. So over time, because I have had an increased demand in building a business and employing other people and making sure that there's not only enough money to go around to keep food on my table and a roof over my family's heads, but also enough money to support other people's families and keep a roof over their head and everything. I have had less time to devote to gaming. But with that said, because I make a thing of it, because if that makes sense, like if I'm only able to play video games for say half an hour to an hour a day, any gamer that is listening to this knows that a half an hour to an hour is like a mission on a game, maybe, you know. But if I'm able to set aside half an hour to an hour a day for me to just sit down and focus on playing this game, like having it be a clear, defined time where I'm not, playing this game and then, pausing it to read something on my phone or getting distracted by other things, it feels so much more fulfilling to me than the times when I have just kind of like I had a 2-hour gaming session and I was, just kind of chilling, doing a whole bunch of different stuff. So, again, for those of you that maybe work, say, a 9-to-5 schedule, I advocate to a lot of the guys that are contractors and employees of mine that while you are on the job, I'm not going to sit here and micromanage you and tell you not to be on your phone or whatever. But so many of the guys that I work with, we are friends outside of work. And so some of the things that we talk about and that I advocate for them to try out is to focus on doing the job. Since we are on a, not on a specific hourly time frame, but just however long it takes is how long it takes. I usually tell them, just focus on the job. You'll find that if you're focused on the job, it will take you 3.5 hours to do a job instead of 5 hours, because you're not pausing to take a break. You're not pausing to, watch a couple videos on Instagram or something like that halfway through the job. And, what most of my guys have started doing is the amount of hours they're working in a day has drastically gone down, just because they go in, they focus on the work, they leave, and they go home. And there's not this like gray area of time where we're just kind of like sitting there taking a break, just getting demotivated from the job, browsing like popular on Reddit or something like that. And so that's a big thing for me, is that I pride myself in being able to pay the people that work for me a healthy, livable wage with them working as few hours as possible. And I know that a lot of people out there are working traditional 40-hour work weeks. I know that a lot of people out there are working 70-hour work weeks. But for you guys, I would honestly recommend, if you're someone out there that is just working the clock, you're doing data entry at some place and you're, knocking that out 50 hours a week or something like that. Like, dude, disregard what I'm saying for the most part. Like, you can focus on your work if you want to, but make sure you're taking breaks. Like, you're working to make somebody else a dollar. So, I'm not going to be one of these business owners out here that's telling you, like, get your nose to the grindstone and, like, get after it. Like, I don't have a problem if you're some 50-hour a week guy doing data entry or whatever job you're working, and you end up taking a 45-minute bathroom break to just like have some time to breathe and have a sense of identity while you're potentially stuck in what feels like not stuck, but potentially not doing something that you enjoy doing all day long. It's nice to have those mental health breaks. And I would advocate for that. So don't get me wrong in that sense. I'm not advocating that my own contractors and employees not take mental health breaks or just time away from their work for any nefarious reason other than I want you to get this job done as quick as you can so that you can not be stuck here for 7 hours, but only be here for 4 hours and get home to your family and be able to do something you actually enjoy doing. And so that's one thing, is just time, like making sure that you're spending enough time just kind of setting these clear boundaries between the time you spend at work, the time you spend doing whatever your hobby is. For my wife, this has been a very difficult thing for her and I, because my wife is an incredibly hard worker. She currently is, I wouldn't even say that she's a stay-at-home mom, because she has so many different things that she works on. She is she's an incredibly skilled artist. She's an incredibly skilled craftsperson. She creates things that I can't even wrap my head around. And so even if she is at home with our children while I'm out at work and all that kind of stuff, she's always working on something. She is always just plugging away, working on something, and she is such a hard worker. But one of the things that my wife has always struggled with is that as a mother and as a father, if you are in the house and you're working, say you're a remote worker, even you're in the house and you're working on something, you hear the kids crying in the other room, it's very hard to not stop what you're doing, get up, go check, even if your spouse has told you, hey, you're working right now, you focus on work, I got the kids. It can be difficult to maintain that kind of focus on your work while working from home, whatever it is you're working on. And something that I often have to tell my wife, remind her, is that, hey, you want to go work on this hobby, this project you're working on, whatever it is, for 3-4 hours. I've got the kids. Okay, I am watching the kids. If you hear crying, I am there. I am in the room. If you hear them arguing about something, I'm there. I've got it handled. And for an impossibly long time, she just had a hard time ignoring that mom instinct. Not even out of, I'm just going to be real with you guys, not even out of a sense of oh no, they're crying, I hope everything's okay, but just oh man, a sense of obligation, a sense of even kind of guilt. Sometimes when you're a parent and you feel like the other parent is handling a lot of the work, even if I spend more time out of the house than she does, if she feels like I'm, handling a lot of the work around the house that day, it's hard sometimes for her to not feel a sense of obligation and guilt. And that, is not the best. It's something that we've talked about many times, where I've told her, whatever it takes, throwing some headphones, listen to a book on tape, blast some music in the basement. If I need you, I'll come get you. If I need you, I can text you, hey, when you have a second, will you come help? I can holler down to the basement, I need help, real quick or whatever. But I knew that, when she was having a hard time feeling like she was just in mom mode all day long, when she was having, just was stuck with that feeling, I knew that something had to change, because I absolutely want her to feel like she gets a break, and I know that you never really are able to stop being a parent, but at the same time, if I, spent the morning out doing a job and then I'm at home and I'm there from, noon to till I have to leave for work again at like 8 or 9, like there should be a good chunk of time where she's able to work on what she needs to work on without feeling that sense of obligation, because while I'm out at work in the morning, while I'm out at work at night, she's there by herself taking care of the kids. Just because she's in the house does not always mean that she has to be available. I think one of the big things that I kind of had to force her to do for a while was take time out of the house, but while I was home and all that, just to make sure that she was getting some sort of breathing room from all these little grubby hands all day long. But at the same time, when she's home and she's working on projects and just working her magic and creating art and building things and all that, like I want her to be able to be laser focused on that. Because if she's not able to feel like she has that thing we've talked about, that difference, that clear bookmark chapter boundary between one part of her day and the next, then she's going to just get stuck in this, drudgery, monotony, unfulfilling patterning cycle of just doing the same thing day in, day out, where all the days start blending together. And that's not healthy for either of us, if I feel that way or if she feels that way. So, long story short, too late, I would encourage you, whether you are a high school student, a college student, a single person, empty nester, or a millennial with 5 cats, whatever the case, you're employed, unemployed, self-employed, just make sure that you're setting, to the best of your ability, healthy boundaries. I know a lot of you are out here like working your butts off 75 hours a week. And I see you, I feel you, I've been there. And I know a lot of you are out there and you're just doing your thing 20 hours a week. A lot of you are out here, stay-at-home dads, stay-at-home moms. You're disabled. You're at home all day long because maybe you can't even leave the house. But make sure that as you're going through the day, that you're setting up just clear boundaries between the different parts of your day, where your brain is able to differentiate. Okay, now we're sitting down to read a book. Now we're sitting down in this other room. Because there's a lot of times where I've talked to even like Twitch streamers. I've talked to YouTube content creators where especially with Twitch streamers, where they're streaming 5 days a week, and they're streaming sometimes in the same room that they sleep in. And then they fall asleep at night and they wake up in the middle of the night having like nightmares, jolted awake, thinking that they're still streaming and that they fell asleep. Or I've talked to people that are remote workers where they, work, they have their home office set up in the same room where they try and relax and unwind in the house. They spend 7-8 hours a day working on the computer, and then in that same room where their computer is set up, they are trying to watch a show to unwind at the end of the night. And I know that this might sound like it's, very privileged, a privileged mindset to have, but I would say that whether or not you're in a 1-bedroom apartment, you're in a 600 square foot living space with 5 kids in it, whatever the case, or you're in a big old house, I would say that you need to within your own living space, have kind of clear set up boundaries in whatever way possible from your work, from your leisure, your downtime. If you're in a 500 square foot apartment and you are a remote worker and you have 3 other people in the house and your computer is just stuck, set up in the same room that you sleep in or that you watch TV in or whatever the case, like at the end of the day, throw a sheet, put a blanket, put some sort of pleasing, if possible, if you have a laptop, I know it might take a couple extra minutes every day for setup and breakdown, but pack away your work gear so that you have just that kind of breakup between in patterns, where you're not having to sit there and stare at, what is now as a remote worker, your cubicle, while you watch the latest episode of whatever show you're going through. A lot of people that are going into the office, or are people like me that are just like hitting the road and like driving everywhere throughout the day, going to different job sites. I know that it's really easy to feel like, okay, I'm a business owner and I am I need to be available at all times. But in reality, like, do you? Like, I'm sure there are a lot of people that have what they conceive as different limitations of how available they are able to be. And for me, I know personally that I can, make myself very available and not feel like it's stressing me out at all. But after a while, eventually the cracks start to show. After a while, the cracks start to show and you realize that, okay, even if I have not set these clear boundaries where my phone is going into airplane mode every single day, at the same time, like, by not having at least a little bit of time where I know that I'm unreachable and I'm just here present with myself or present with my family, that after a while something's going to give, and it might not manifest itself in a way that you expect, or you might not even recognize it for what it is when it's happening. But I'm here to tell you, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Jeff Bezos or, like, I don't know, whatever successful business person you are, whoever you are not able to be on 100% of the time. You can't. Like, you just can't do it. Or at least if you feel like you can, you shouldn't be. Why would you want to do that to yourself? I know that a lot of people out here are, just content with their slice of life, and a lot of people out here are trying to grind and get something better or whatever, but at the same time, whatever camp you're in, you can't be on 100% of the day. I have been running my own business for over a decade now. I've started multiple businesses, and like, great, I want to grow my business. I want to every day be fielding new, phone calls for new accounts and expanding my operations, but at the same time, not at the cost of my own mental health. Because what the hell is the point of any of this if I don't have time to spend with my family, if I am going insane? What's the point of any of it? So, again, long story short, just focus on taking care of yourself. Know your boundaries, know your limits, set healthy goals and expectations for yourself. You don't have to go to the gym 6 days a week like me. You don't have to go to the gym at all. Go on a walk around your neighborhood if that's how you want to get out and get exercise. Take your dog on a walk. Go play Pokemon Go with your kid. Whatever it is, whatever it looks like. Like, just make sure that you're breaking everything up so that your days start to feel like days again. You remember when you were a kid and, man, those days in the summer, they just were full of wonder and felt so long. Like, I grew up in an abusive household. I grew up in a bad situation. But at the same time, I still remember days of summer where, like, man, they just felt like they went on forever, and there was all the time in the world, every single day. And what was the big thing is that each section of my day was broken up into just clear, concise, defined boundaries of, I'm spending all this time playing with the neighborhood kids, and now I'm going home and I'm playing video games, and now I'm sitting down to eat dinner, without any sort of overlap of my brain is trying to focus on listening to a podcast while I'm eating breakfast, and now my brain is trying to focus on listening to a podcast while I'm playing video games or whatever. Just set clear boundaries for yourself. I think that a lot of you will find that it can help vastly improve your mental state and help feel like a lot of the clutter in your day-to-day schedule, whether you're a remote worker or working 70 hours a week in a hospital right now, will feel a little bit more free, a little bit less suffocating, and a little bit just all around more healthy for your own personal benefit. Thank you guys. I will talk to you next week. And like I said, hopefully I will be back with at least one of my partners in crime. I think we might be doing some sort of episode on maybe fitness, or maybe taking a deep dive into our own personal histories with video games, favorite games, all that. Either way, look out for next week's episode. Thank you very much and have a wonderful week.